Hello. So today I thought I would talk about a previously underused unit in past editions, and one that I think will probably see a little bit more play, but I think it might still get overshadowed by a lot of the really good units in the Tau Codex, but I don't think it's a I don't think it's because it's a bad unit, and in fact, I think it's actually quite good for what you're paying for it. There's a lot of neat little things that go into it that make it quite a useful unit for what you're paying in points. And that is, as you probably gathered by the title too, the Skyray. The Skyray is sort of like, it's typically been the like not as cool brother of the Hammerhead, partially because it's the same sort of chassis profile. It's also part of the same kit when you buy it at the store. I'm going to give you a couple of quick little tips at the end as well to end up getting the most out of the kit if you buy it. But it's sort of been overshadowed, I think, and this edition, 9th edition, with the new codex, I think it's going to kind of come into its own. The only issue is that it does have to compete with broadsides, which at this point in time seem like the strongest contender in the heavy support slot, and one of the strongest units in the codex, certainly. They get the core keyword, they're relatively cheap, they've got really strong weapons, they've got interesting profiles, they're quite good. But I think there really is a place for the Skyray. And I think if you took a Skyray in your list, or even two, your list would be stronger for it. I think it's quite good. Will you see them at tournaments? I don't really know. I wouldn't. To be honest, I don't know. I'm not really involved in the tournament scene, but I don't think you would have a super hard time if you took a couple of them. The drawbacks we'll start with first. One, it's got that sort of vehicle stat line that is pretty easy for anti-tank firepower to take out. The problem is no invulnerable save. Like a lot of other vehicles in the game, it just doesn't get one. It did get an extra wound with the new codex, which is nice, but it's still toughness 7, which is not bad, but not amazing. It's a 3-up armor save. Again, not bad, but not amazing. So it's decently survivable, but any real dedicated anti-tank firepower leveled at it will probably take one out. Now, that aside, I think that the pros heavily outweigh the cons. Let's have a look. So we're going to start with our stat line to begin with. So, like I said, it's in the heavy support section in the Tau Codex. So the other selections there, you've got the Hammerhead, of course. You've got the Riptide now, which used to be in Elites. And it used to be kind of a staple of most lists. Now, the Riptide, I don't think so as much. So I wouldn't say that's a stiff bit of competition. But then, as I'd mentioned, broadsides. So those are the only ones in the Codex anyways. So you might find some other stuff in Forge World. But as far as the Codex is concerned, there are 4 selections in the heavy support section. So for the Skyray, movement 12, like the other tanks, so like your Devilfish and like your Hammerhead. But that is one of the stats that degrades. So it's 12 inches, 8 inches, 4 inches at the lowest profile. Weapon skill 6+, who cares? Ballistic skill 4+, standard across the Tau army, and again, that's the one that really hurts when it degrades. 4+, 5+, 6+, ouch. There are ways of mitigating this, though. We'll talk about that as well. Strength 6, again, who cares? Toughness 7, there you go. 14 wounds, used to be 13, so one more wound is always nice. 3 attacks, who cares? This is the profile that degrades also the number of attacks. again, this is the one where you're probably not even going to pay attention to this. Although, always remember you've got attacks with this thing. Strength 6 attacks, hitting on 6s is not nothing, but it's really, really damn close to nothing. Leadership 8, sure. Save 3+. So that's the profile of the Skyray gunship. So the only way in which it's really different from the last edition is it gained a wound. Nice. Now, the weapon profiles are where this thing really changed. Gone are the only 6 missiles that come attached to the Skyray itself. Excuse me for the adjusting lighting. It's really bright this morning, so me like shifting my arm over there is changing my camera lighting. Check that out. There we go. Actually, if I do that, you can really see the missiles a little bit better. So the kit comes with 6 missiles on it, right? And the way they had set that up was, well, you get 6 seeker missiles, and once they're fired, they're gone. So in 8th edition, you would have 6 missiles, so a finite number, and you could fire more of them, more than one rather, on each turn. But they also needed 2 marker lights to be able to tag something at regular ballistic skill. So not only did you have a finite resource, you also had them at worse ballistic skill, which was ridiculous. So it ended up being like you'd fire all these missiles at one target if you got the marker lights on it, and then it was this floating tank chassis that had like a secondary weapon and a marker light on it. Like, ugh, whatever. So not really all that amazing. So now that's gone. Now here's what we've got. The Seeker Missile Rack. So this is a new weapon profile that basically allows you to fire some Seeker missiles and it doesn't run out of ammo. Amazing. So the way the Seeker Missile Rack works is 72-inch range, amazing. You're reaching across the board. It's heavy D3 plus 1. So you're getting a minimum of 2 missiles each time you fire this and a max of 4. So some decent output. And again, they're not finite. So you're getting 2 to 4 missiles each time you fire it and you don't have to count them. They are now strength 9. Strength 9 for anti-vehicle, anti-monster firepower is such a key strength to be at. And it's so much better than strength 8. With all these big monsters and big vehicles, tough vehicles being at toughness 8, having that strength 9 to wound on 3s is wonderful. Then it's minus 3 AP, a good solid chunk of AP negated. Wonderful. And the damage is reliable as well, 2d3. So it's minimum 2 damage. You don't have that 1d6 thing where you can roll a 1. It's 2d3, which is nice. Minimum of 2, maximum of 6. So basically the 2d3 just ups your minimum damage output. Real nice. So you've got that as the main weapon, and that's the weapon that doesn't get swapped out. It can't be switched for anything. That is the reason you're taking the Skyray, is this missile rack right here. But it comes equipped with a couple of other things that's really nice. Like most tanks, it'll have a secondary weapon system. So the stock secondary weapon system is typically you'll have 2 of these little gun drones that are, oh no, that one's glued down. These little gun drones that are attached to the front section right here. That's the stock equipment that doesn't cost you any points to upgrade. So you'll have 2 gun drones, each of them will have 2 pulse carbines, but those will fire at the ballistic skill of the tank when they're attached. So it's okay. The pulse carbines are a little longer range now, so that helps you out a little bit at 24 inches. And it's a little bit of, you know, close-up anti-infantry firepower if anything gets too close to your tank, which is cool. But there are a few other options that you can take. Like other tanks, and specifically like the Hammerhead, you can also take 2 accelerator burst cannons, which are the upgraded burst cannon profiles that fire 8 shots, not 6, strength 6, not 5, and minus 1 AP, not AP 0. So nice and updated. Those, while a little lower range at 18 than the pulse carbines, are just stronger, flat out stronger, and it's more attacks because it's 8 for each accelerator burst cannon, so that's 16 shots. So if you really wanted something to kind of protect your tank from threats that are coming real close, this would be the thing to go for. You'd have 16 shots, strength 6, AP -1, very, very good shooting. Now, the other one, and this is the one I would typically equip it with, but that's just me for my playstyle. So I'm not saying this is the best one. I'm not saying that you have to do this or else you'll lose. I'm saying this is my preference. Smart missile systems. I love having ignoring line of sight. It's super helpful, and smart missiles in this codex also got a nice -1 to their AP, which is helpful. And they kept their benefits of firing out of line of sight and ignoring light cover. Real nice. It used to be just ignore cover. Now it ignores light cover. They're just changing a lot of the wording to fit in with the terrain features of 9th, and that's fine. So it's still heavy 4 shots, so that'd be 8 because you're getting 2 of them. And as you can see, that's how I've got mine equipped. So smart missiles, smart missiles. These are the smart missile systems here. And they come with the kit as well, which is real nice. So twin smart missile systems, and then the Skyray missile rack. The smart missile systems also have the longest range, so it really, I mean, it's not going to hit 72 inches like the missile rack, but it's a little more synergized with that sort of long-range approach and firing missiles, which is nice. It also ignores line of sight, which if something's approaching you with the intention of locking up a unit, with the intention of assaulting it, with the intention of getting close and blasting it with something, you don't have to worry about seeing the target before launching at it, which is really nice. So if it's behind something, you can whoop, the missiles will just go right over it. They'll ignore any light cover benefits from terrain. They have a -1 AP built in. And at strength 5, you're wounding a lot of things pretty decently at strength 5. You know, you're not going to be damaging like main battle tanks that much, but infantry, whatever, you'll be doing okay with those shots. And also the smart missiles ignoring line of sight kind of helps out with another aspect of this unit. There's a stratagem that really helps this guy out, but we'll get to that in a sec. So you get your primary weapon, which is the missile rack. You get your secondary weapon, which is here, so either the gun drones for free, the accelerator burst cannons, which I believe are 5 points each, so a total of 10 points for that upgrade. Let me just double check. And I believe the smart missile systems are the same, 5 points each. So, yeah, that's right. So 5 points each for an accelerator burst cannon, so 10, and 5 points each for a smart missile system, so 10 when you're getting the 2. You can't mix and match, by the way. You can't take, say, like one smart missile system, one accelerator burst cannon. They're taken in pairs. You have to do them in pairs. So, yeah, it says here, instead of being equipped with 2 gun drones, the Skyray missile gunship can be equipped with one of the following: 2 accelerator burst cannons, 2 smart missile systems. So it specifies. You can't mix and match. But whatever. That's really not a big hindrance at all. Now, this thing also comes equipped stock with 2 marker lights, which is very, very helpful. I'm just going to pop this off and show you that you've got all the missiles, and then you've got these cool little marker lights here. You can see them. They come attached, and they come with the model as well. So you'll get your 2 marker lights, which is real nice. A couple more marker lights is always welcome, and it's cool that it's built into one of your units like this. So when you're building your list out, you can think of it this way. You've got these 2 marker lights attached to your vehicle, which is really nice. So depending on how many marker lights you want to take, it can let you save in other places, like on marker drones, like on Pathfinders, although I would always just include a unit of Pathfinders. They're really good at doing the marker lights, and they've got a lot of cool little options for them to stay alive and so on. But just in terms of other markers throughout your list, having 2 attached to a unit that you already want to use is really nice. And that's one of the things that I think makes the Skyray kind of shine as a unit, is that it's got this heavy weapon. It's got its own secondary weapon, like most things, but it also comes equipped with 2 marker lights, and it's pretty cheap. It's 135 points base. So for 135 points, you're getting the missile rack, you're getting the 2 marker lights, and you're getting your 2 gun drones on the front. And then it's 145 if you want to take either the smart missiles or the accelerator burst cannons instead, which is still very, very valuable. So you're getting a nice main battle tank for just under 150 points, which is solid. It's a little less expensive than the Hammerhead, and notably the weapon is less devastating than the main Hammerhead weapon, but little cheaper. You're getting marker lights as well, and there's some interesting little shenanigans you can pull to completely ignore line of sight with this thing, which is nice, real nice. Now, before we get to that, let's get to more things that just come stock on this. This is what really has sold me on this unit, is that there are these little things that are just straight up attached to the model that you don't have to pay for, that just make it better at the job that it does. It gets 2 marker lights, boom, they're free, amazing. It also has something called aerial scanners. Each time this unit's Skyray gunship model makes a ranged attack against an aircraft unit, add 2 to the attack's hit roll, you can re-roll the damage roll. Again, that's just free. So while it's specific to aircraft, which, I mean, hey, you might play a game and you might not come up against any aircraft, fine. It's just free. It's just there and it's free, and you add 2 to the hit roll. So imagine you're shooting at an aircraft that's flying fast, -1 to hit. Suddenly that -1 gets negated and you've got a +1 on top of that. Amazing. And then you're re-rolling the damage roll. Fantastic. So that's a nice little bonus that is kind of a fluffy bonus. It's meant to be an anti-aircraft vehicle, right? It's called a Skyray. It's meant to knock things out of the sky. That's cool. So you get that for free. Real nice. And then it's also got the upgrade that the Hammerhead got, the targeting array. Each time this unit's Skyray gunship model is selected to shoot, you can re-roll 1 hit roll. That's also free. You just have that. Regardless of Sept Tenet, regardless of upgrades that you've taken, regardless of anything you've composed your army with, you're getting a free reroll to hit. Wonderful. And especially with a low shot weapon like this, it's real helpful. Really, really helpful. And again, that's just free. So you get a free advantage against aircraft. You get a free reroll every time you're shooting with it. You get a couple of marker lights. It's these little things attached to it that really make it shine. And kind of separate it from the Hammerhead. I realize the targeting array is also on the Hammerhead, but it's the marker lights, it's the aerial scanner, it's the type of missiles that you're firing, and then it's the ability to fire out of line of sight. Now this will cost you a stratagem and a little bit of preparation. So, the stratagem is not specific to the Skyray, but I think it's one of the best units to use it on. It's called, what is it called? Frequency lock. Also, it just sounds cool. Although that, that's not going to help you in many games, is it, I suppose? Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. So you have that freedom of whenever you want to use it. It's not specific to the start of the shooting phase. It's anytime in the shooting phase when you select this model to fire with. So when you select it to fire with, you could select it to fire last, you could select it to fire first, however you want to do it. When a Tau Empire model, so it doesn't specify the Skyray, it doesn't specify anything, but the weapons are specified. When a Tau Empire model from your army is selected to shoot, until the end of that phase, each time that model makes an attack with a seeker missile rack, or destroyer missile. So, seeker missile rack, that's what we've got right here. It's notable that this stratagem could be used with anything firing seeker missiles, although I think it's it's kind of a waste if you're firing only one. So it's the type of thing I would say keep it to the seeker missile racks. You could fire it with 2 seeker missiles, say off a devilfish, off a piranha, off a hammerhead, even if you like. I wouldn't use it to fire 1 missile. I think that might be a little of a waste for one shot. Get at least 2 out of there, and then for the destroyer missiles, that's real nice because those are the ones that are only on the Storm Surge, and they're really, really strong. So you're getting two destroyer missile shots with this advantage. And the advantages are this. We've got 2. Number 1, the target can attack units with 1 or more marker light tokens on them that are not visible to the attacking model. So you do have to have at least a marker light on the unit you're firing against, but you ignore line of sight. So if you remember, if we picked the smart missile systems and then we use the stratagem, all of our weapons are ignoring line of sight, which adds a little bit of survivability to this model, which means you're not necessarily lining up. You can hide behind something and still just fire your weapons. The smart missiles can target anything out of line of sight within range. They don't need the marker light. So you could go after another target, you could go after the same target, it doesn't matter. But the seeker missile rack would get the benefits of this. So you fire out of line of sight, which is already really good, but then you add 1 to the attack's wound roll. Real nice. And remember, we talked about strength 9 being really important. Let's say you're firing at something with toughness 8, a heavy target with toughness 8. Strength 9, you'll be wounding it on 3s. But with adding 1 to the wound, you'll be wounding it on 2s, which is really good. Makes it all the more reliable. So you're hitting it on 3s because it's got a marker light on it, assuming no other modifiers are there. You're re-rolling 1 of those hits because it's just part of the Skyray, and then you're adding 1 to the wound roll as you're firing at it from out of line of sight from relative safety. So for 1 CP, I think it's really worth it if you're using the Skyray, if you're using something that has at least a couple of seeker missiles, if not more, or the destroyer missiles for the Storm Surge. But this, I think, really makes it shine. Unfortunately, the one issue with this is if you are hiding completely behind cover and, totally unseen, you won't really get to use the marker lights that are attached to the Skyray. But depending on the situation, you may want to hide behind something, fire your seeker missiles at something really dangerous. Keep in mind, this is something 72 inches away, up to 72 inches away. So if you can get a marker light, just 1, on the target you want that's super far away, you can just artillery bomb it from where you are. Basically the other end of the table. You could be at one corner of the table, and if you can get a marker light from some other unit that's within 36 for the marker light, boom. Out of line of sight, you're adding to the wound, you're getting a reroll to hit, you're getting very, very damaging shots on that target. And then the smart missiles could go after something else if they're not within range of your target, because they just ignore line of sight as well. Very cool. So that one I think is well worth 1 CP when considering the damage that you can do from the safety that you're in. So while you're not getting an invulnerable save or added toughness or more wounds or some other way to make you more tough, you are getting this sort of fire from safety benefit that you can use. So overall, I think this is a very strong unit. I think it's a little underrated based on some of the other things in the Codex. It does come with a few other rules that kind of happen to all the vehicles. It's got the drone dock rule with the drones that can only detach if you use a stratagem. Otherwise, the drones are destroyed if the vehicle's destroyed and they're attached. That's if you take the drones, of course, the two gun drones that come attached. It's got the hover tank, so it can just fly over terrain beautifully. And it has also got the fact that it explodes, and it explodes really big for what it is. It's anything within 6 inches suffers D6 mortal wounds, which is a big explosion for a medium tank. Now, I kind of get it. This thing's covered in missiles, so it exploding, doing a lot of damage makes sense. The same thing happens to Hammerhead, which I also kind of understand. You know, big ordnance, big weapons, big explosion. For some reason, it also is on the Devilfish, which is weird. It seems like a mighty big explosion for a Devilfish. Anyways, we'll get to that when I talk about the Devilfish. But I think the Skyray has enough baked in cool little benefits that make it a very decent option for as a long range anti-tank killer, anti-aircraft certainly. But you don't have to build it to be that. So if you're not facing aircraft, it's really not a big deal. You just get a small benefit if you are. But if you're firing against anything else, you're still re-rolling a hit. You're still getting very strong missiles. You still have access to that stratagem that allows you to fire out of line of sight and add to the wound roll. You still get your secondary weapon systems, and you still get a couple of marker lights attached to the unit as well. So it's worth noting too, with the degrading profile, your weapons, yeah, they will get hindered, but your marker lights are always going to hit on 3s. There's nothing attached to ballistic skill and marker lights in this edition. So even if you've got 1 wound remaining, you still have 2 marker lights that function really well. And as a vehicle, this thing can move and fire marker lights. So worth keeping in mind. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.